Oh, 4:30. Yeah. All right, here we go. Teammates. Aswand Crookshank back again, checking in. Your one and only Move Swiftly speaker here, five-time published author, former college football player, and I'm here again with an absolute a guest. And this is what I try to tell you guys. This business is all about your relationships. It must have been about now close to a decade ago in which I was a trainer. I was a trainer for a gym named D1 D1 Training and Therapy or something like that. This was back when I lived in the DMV in Chantilly, and I get there, and the first set of flyers I see is Mr. Big Skills Academy, Coach Sudan Ellington, just out there shopping, doing what he got to do. And at that time, I had signed a contract to be a scout with FBU, and I got a chance to meet Mike Anderson. And this is like the cream of the crop type of athletes. We're talking Blake Corum, we're talking Caleb Williams, we're talking all of the major guys that are coming out of the DMV came through the Grassroots Academy. And I don't think I've ever told you this, Coach Sue, but it was after I think it was DeMatha and St. John's, where it was the DeMatha coach, and he was talking to a parent, and they were saying, hey, man, look, I got a young lineman that's trying to come up. Who do I send him to? And he pointed at you, Coach Sue, and he goes, look, that's the best in the business right there. You need to make sure, and you are not going to talk to a college recruiter right now. We're talking specifically football that doesn't need offensive linemen. And I will echo what the DeMatha coach said. That's the best in the business. He's come up the right way. It's not like you're not talking to someone who's just been, I knew this guy, I had a dad who didn't know. You're talking about someone that built the business from the ground up, working with young linemen, footwork, the whole nine. So I'm truly, truly happy to have you on the show, man. Congrats on all the success you've had. I've been keeping up with your posts since then. And just welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to see what you're doing since your D1 days, but that's humbling, though. That's very humbling. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, you did it. And so before we get started on everything we're going to talk about, why don't you just kind of give a little background of your athletic playing career? I know that you played at Tennessee, but I wasn't sure like what you did before. That experience was a whole lot different, I'm sure, back then than it is now. So I'll just give you the mic to kind of introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your background.
Man, Sudan Ellington, was born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. Moved to Virginia Beach, actually, in the 7th grade. And I think that's where it kind of started. Moved to Virginia. I was a highly recruited athlete out of Virginia Beach. My uncle got another job in DC, which relocated me to Northern Virginia. I had opportunity to go to DeMatha Catholic with Morgan Wooden because I was a basketball player. And the funny thing is they never told me they had a football team. So wow. I thought DeMatha had a basketball team. So I ended up going to Bishop O'Connell with Morgan Wooden's son, Joe Wooden, to play basketball. And I found that they had a football team. So, of course, my first love is football. So played football. Then I ended up playing basketball with Morgan Wooden's son, which is kind of crazy because the full circle. I was the All-American in Virginia Beach. I get to DC, nobody knows me, and it's not like Twitter. You can just switch over and say, "Hey,
before those days, right?
Yeah, I'm not here. I'm there now." So like a whole new coach had to come and recruit me, and a whole new like area to break into. And so, funny story, going throughout the season, you would always see like DeMatha 18-0, they undefeated, they got 30 D1 offer guys, and so I said, "Hey man, nobody's coming to my school, so when we play DeMatha, somebody got to come over with a scholarship."
Right.
So by the grace of God, man, I had a great game against them. Bill McGregor, who was the head coach at the time, and still the head coach.
Still the head coach, yeah, he's back. Yeah, he's back. I saw him on ESPN, man, wheelchair and everything. Dog. I'm like, you still out there doing it, dog.
Literally, man, no knock to any schools, but it was Salisbury State, Richmond, Elon. The very next Monday after we played DeMatha, Miami, Penn State, Nebraska, Notre Dame, like flooding in the school. And I'm sitting here like, what happened? Like, what flicked the switch? And they all said they went over to DeMatha Catholic and they said, "Hey, man, I don't know if y'all looking for a football player or not, but you better go to the Bishop O'Connell and go get number 5. Can't tell you about his background, but I can tell you if you want a football player." go get him. And so I'm forever thankful and grateful for Coach Bill McGregor.
Yeah,
Because normally most coaches not going to refer another
at
player
all.
at
That's not the
all,
way.
right?
No, especially nowadays where everything is so me, 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 me. I want to get my guy signed. I want to do it all about me, and I'm always making sure I'm trying to shop my kid and do this for me, me, me. So that's a rarity for sure.
Yeah, so he blessed me with that, and I always wanted to thank him, and I didn't even see him until probably 5 years after I was done
Hmm.
playing and just hanging around with doing some stuff with NFL, and I met him. But great guy, great man, and a legend. So that's the kind of man he is, for
Right.
real. So
So
um,
you commit? Did you commit to Tennessee? What made you commit to Tennessee,
so
or how'd you get this?
I'm really from Alabama. And
Mm-hmm.
so my oldest brother, James Owens, was the first black running back for Auburn in the 70s. So I always wanted to play in the SEC, and I really
Oh,
wanted to go to Auburn, to be honest with you. If you know anything about Alabama, Birmingham, man, you either Roll Tide or War Eagle,
yeah.
nothing in between. And so
I know a little
talking
bit
to my
about
older,
that.
talking to my older brother, he made history, and I didn't want to follow in his footsteps, and I really didn't want to go to Alabama because that was the normal thing. And so one day he was like, "Well, bro, like it really became down between Tennessee and Auburn." And I
Hmm.
ended up, he said he ended up picking Auburn. So I was like, man, Tennessee showing me love. My
Hmm.
cousin, CJ Faden, had just committed to Tennessee. So I was like, let's keep it going because we played together in Virginia Beach prior to moving to DC. So it was kind
Hmm.
of a full circle for us to come back, and
Right.
we started in middle school. Now we get to play college ball together. So that was a dream come true. And like any player, like injuries happen. They're still recruiting 5 stars, and so I ended up transferring to James Madison. Wanted to get a business degree. So
Hmm.
now you're thinking about life after ball as you're
Exactly.
playing. So James Madison had a great sports kinesiology department and a business program. And I
Hmm.
knew my goal was to always train and have a training, being in that training space. So
Right.
I thought that was a good fit. We won a national championship, and I just found out 2 weeks ago that they're inducting our team into the Hall of Fame.
No
So
kids.
we're Hall of Fame for 2024. So
No kids.
it's a blessing.
Yeah, I actually did a NIL deal with three JMU players.
Okay.
All three of them went to get counsel. It was Julio, Jalen Green, and Latrell. And I did an NIL deal with them, and they were. I didn't even realize that they had moved from FCS to the Sun Belt Conference, and they're just. I mean, I spoke about this a little bit in my book, but they're just as good as these major schools, but they don't have the budget. They don't have that, the money that a Notre Dame would have to offer. So that's kind of where I want to kind of get your input in regards to you've experienced it. Obviously you were highly recruited after you shown that you have the ability to play. If you were being recruited nowadays where there's NIL money, where there's certain questions that you want to ask, and not only that, but also the transfer portal exists, there's so many things that you probably would have did different. Like, how do you see yourself fitting into today's landscape when it comes to the recruiting process? And it's how much of a mess it's got, because you have some top prospects in your ecosystem. I'm sure the questions that they're asking you, they're like, "Yo, Coach Sue, but somebody's offering me $1 million versus someone that's offering me 500K. How do you navigate that space?"
I always start with what's the goal, right?
Hmm.
So is the goal to get the NIL deal, or is the goal to go to the NFL? And sometimes I think the NIL deal now distracts some of the guys from looking at what's a true fit and what's a like. So it's funny that we were talking about this. So I was thinking about it. So I'll give you part A of me, and then I'll give you part B.
Good.
So part A, the young athlete from Alabama. Everybody said he's going to be the next one because my family is very athletic. And you throw a kid with that background, NIL money, I'm broke. I gotta take care of my brother. I gotta take care of my sister. I'm the youngest of 13,
Yeah.
and we like nice things. So I would have ran through that, right? So then you talk about Coach E from Part B. I
Hmm.
transfer, I leave and go to Virginia. I meet a great mentor. I call him my pops, Reginald Kitchen, and he's a financial advisor, trainer for the NBA guys. Grant Hill, Dennis Scott, some of the
And
big.
this was after you were at Tennessee and
This
you
was
saw
it.
the competition, like you saw the competition and you were around SEC talent at Tennessee, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you saw right. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so in high school, being able to be a mentor by a guy like that had all these NBA stars, and to come to find out uh, they had they only was able to get allowances. So you're looking at guys like Shaq and Grant Hill, and he's putting these
Mm-hmm.
guys on allowances. Like
Mm.
you only can spend this amount of money per month, and if you need more, you have to have signatures in place that you don't go broke, right?
Wow.
So with these guys, I'm like, man, like they're really putting in place an allowance, but he's also was teaching them how to manage money. So I think it's a great thing that guys can get money in NIL deals. But I say,
Mm-hmm.
one, do we really know how to handle it?
Yeah.
Right? Do we know how to save and how to taxes and what are we really trying to do with it? And then secondly, it can't deter you away from what your goals are.
Right.
So a high school me was said my choices was what's the best program that can get me to my goal, not what's the best program that can put the most money in my pocket. Because the school that put the most money in my pocket may not necessarily run a scheme that I'm familiar with or can have success in.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I could go to
Yeah.
Alabama, but I felt like I was a 4-3 defensive end. Well, they run a 3-4. So either I had to lose weight and try to be a stand up end, or I had to, buckle up and then go play a three technique or a 4-eye.
Mm-hmm.
So does the scheme fit you? So I think players have to look at the overall. I'm not saying don't get your money. Please go
Right.
get the money. But
That
make
well,
sure.
that's what I was going to ask you because every situation is different, and I actually just recorded a podcast episode like this. There could be, and the majority of money is coming in from men's basketball and football, and the majority of those student athletes are young African American males that are growing up in poverty. They're growing up single moms. They're growing up in situations that are just rough, and I can't tell. Like it'll be difficult for me to tell a young man like that who's grown up dirt poor to see the offer and think about football, think about skiing, think about any of that. They take their money and they out because nowadays the information is so grand that they know that they have a 1% chance of making it to the league. To that young man, what do you say to that young man? So your thoughts on that?
Every situation is different.
Right.
No, seriously. If that is the case, you have to go and support your family. Like you
Right.
have to do what's best. Because at the end of the day, why do we go to college?
Mm-hmm.
To get a job. So my job is being an athlete and a student athlete now. That gives you freedom to be able to take care of your family. But I also that's tough because
Yeah.
that's a tough one because at some point, when do you choose yourself though?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So
Exactly.
I could take the money now and my family is happy and I'm miserable.
Mm-hmm.
So is that fair to the athlete?
It's not fair to athlete, and this is why I love having conversations like this because the proposed solution that I have is that it's our job as people that have played the game, know the game, to institute something a lot like was it your uncle you said that was a financial manager to
Mm-hmm.
institute something in which we're at least teaching high school athletes, youth athletes, this is how you manage your money. This is equity. This is how you put stake in certain things. This is how you create your own product. This is how you use your social media. This is how you make sure that you're investing in it and that you're at least going into these recruiting conversations asking the right questions because I think NIL was started with a good intention, but it's gone really, really left because
Bad.
so many people are going, like, they're like just throwing money in situations. And now you got college kids who can't even attend class because they're making too much and they're afraid of losing it. And a lot, like you said, they're making decisions that are benefiting their family, but at the end of the day, it's you as the student athlete. You're the one that at some point you have to choose yourself. So,
I always think about the
mhm.
ESPN show Broke, right? Remember the 30 for
Oh
30?
man, that 30 for 30 was crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
I
so
remember that.
as fast as I get it, as fast as I lose it.
Uh
If
huh.
we don't educate our young people about what money is
Hmm.
and what it isn't, right?
Right.
So I think education is very important. And so what we try to do is we have a team
Yeah, that's
that
actually you beat me to it. I was gonna ask you
uh,
like now because you're in business now with BSA, and I know it started off just by training linemen, but since our time at D1, you've excelled as, college coach, and now you're running your own business. So it's a good time to kind of talk a little bit about how you can do those services or establish those services.
Like you said, I grew up in it, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
played, I coached it, and so and I've been developing guys over the years. So what my goal was to create a program where they can have everything that they need in house.
Mm.
So you have the training. I have a mental health doctor that comes in and talk and give an assessment. I have a financial advisor because I grew up with those guys. So the Chase Youngs, he was with me at DeMatha, and we
Yeah.
walked through the Ohio State, and then we walked through the league, and Gito Gross-Montos, Rasheed Walker. So being
Yeah.
able to give them the best advice, because it's always scary when a guy you just met 2 months ago telling you got to do this, this, and this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't want to be a silent partner. I wanted to make sure they had the power to understand what they could do and what they couldn't do. And so
Mm-hmm.
we bring people in to educate them to talk about money management, talk about investing, talking about, if I want to retire my parents, how do I do that in a safe and a responsible way? Do I get an LLC, a C corp? Do I hire, what kind of business do I need to take care of my parents where that money can go there and I'm not double taxed? But people don't understand. So we try to put them around the guys that have done it and that could actually educate them to make the best decisions. We can't control what decision they make, but at least they have the information to make the right decision.
So give us an example a little bit about if I'm a parent that is hearing about your program for the first time, and I got a young lineman that I'm trying to get him out. I'm trying to, get him involved with some things. What's sort of the journey that you take athlete on from when they're babies all the way to when they're ready to sign an NFL contract? I know you actually also had Jordan Seaton on your roster as well, who made a made a huge splash. There were rumors of him decommitting from Colorado and all that stuff. I loved how he did it. I loved, again, he represented the DMV the right way, do what he had to do. And I'm looking forward to seeing him ball this year. But you had him when he was a baby. Just kind of talk to us about the journey you take these young guys on.
It always starts with a goal and a dream. So that's the first thing. And then we build to how bad you really want it. So then we go through the baseline, just building you got the guys up, making sure academically they're qualified, making sure technically they're sound. And then we put those guys through classes. So I have a Boys and Girls Club background. And one of the dopest programs they had was like money management or money matters, right? So we give those young people small increments of how to save money. And if I could do it with $5 or $10 allowance, that'll help me with the discipline when it comes to 50, 100, a million. And so we try to give them, prep them at every stage. And so now you're talking about going to the rivals camps or the college camps. Well, how do I act? How do I dress? How do I project myself? Making sure I know who I am outside of the game. Because we want to make sure these campuses that we go to, I get it. Yes, we want to make the NIL money. Yes, we want to play. But then we also want to get the thing that those colleges are built on, right? You go to Notre Dame, being an alumni from Notre Dame means something,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can pick
Yeah.
up a phone and call any CEO, any businessman, and now you have a job for life. So we
Yeah.
want to make sure we get what that campus has to offer. So we want to make sure we're grooming our young people to think big. What do you want to be at the sports? We try not to. It's almost reversed. We almost try to put them away from the game to figure out who they are. So when the
Yeah.
game is taken away, they know exactly who they are. Their identity is not wrapped too tight into the game, but they're understanding this is a tool that I'm using to get me to the next, right? So we just walk that step and it reduplicates itself every level from, like you said, we started with the grassroots program, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
were the best kids in the DMV. Well,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? Those 7th and 8th graders was getting recruited to go to high school,
Yeah.
right? So we started, we had to
Yeah.
start getting, okay, well, you can go to the math at St. John's, get counsel, whatever. What
Mm-hmm.
is the pros and cons out of it?
Right.
So now they're understanding the process of how to make a decision. And then how to, like we're talking about, how to fulfill your commitment. You want to go to good counsel? We're gonna give you all the pros and cons for you to make a decision. So now
Right.
when we get to college, we can say, okay, these are the pros and cons. of going to college.
Right.
Make the
Well,
decision.
you kind of beat me to that next question, because if you were like me, you were stubborn. And when someone told you, look, you may not be good enough to go to the league, I didn't want to listen. I kind of blew off my homework assignments. I graduated good counsel with a 2.2 grade point average, playing one position on the football field. And I was wondering why no Division I schools actually offered me, why I had to go D2. So I
Mm.
had to find out the hard way. All right, because I was stubborn. Like, how do you address that young man who will hear what you say, but it's like, whatever, coach, I'm going to the league, I'm going D1, regardless of how. Like, how do you address that? Or do you just say, look, I'm done, I ain't even mess with you, which is not a problem, to be honest with you too.
You got to love them through it.
Yeah.
I have to love them through it,
Hmm.
right? And just put things in place to help when it does hit the wall. We've
Yeah.
kind of gotten stuck. We padded them so the fall won't be so steep. But you can't take your hands off, because, I mean, you're a 16, 17-year-old kid, and we always tell people to dream big until they start dreaming big. And then we tell them, oh, man, that dream is too big. And
Hmm.
so, as mentors, I feel like it's important that we also put things in play for the outcome. So you could make it to the league, but
Right.
at some point you got to retire.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So let's
Yeah.
start putting the road to what we're going to do next in play now.
Got it.
So
Got
that
it.
when you have to get a job, it's not like you're working, because you're doing something you love. And so
Hmm.
that's why I think the biggest thing for us is getting self identity. Who are you outside of what football is? What I do, basketball is what I do. Who
Yeah.
am I when there's no crowd, when there's no cheerleaders? Who am I in my essence of the core? And that's what we try to shine that light on and help them to dig more into that person.
So what with the athletes, I think you have a couple athletes that are currently in the league. I think I've seen you like at combines and a lot of the cool things that you're doing now. How do they play a role in regards to how you get that message across to the youth kids now?
They're the examples,
Right.
right? They're the examples. They're the examples that they're going to listen to,
Hmm.
right? And so I just try to use my mentorship and my relationship with these guys
Yeah.
to also let them know they have a responsibility that the next
To
generation is
get back.
right. And so we have guys like Rasheed Walker that goes back and talk to the kids at school. We have
Hmm.
Vitor Grosso that goes back to their community in the school in the schools that they play in, and talk
Hmm.
to young kids. And it's not, and they keep it real 100, right?
Hmm.
Listen, man, I didn't do this, and this, and it almost cost me this and this, right?
Hmm.
You know, Rasheed is openly talking about how, he was clearly a top 5, 10 tackle, when he came out in the draft, and he ended up getting drafted seventh round.
Hmm.
So decisions and choices that it has a consequence. It may not hit
Right.
you today or tomorrow, but they will catch up at some point. And so he was able to take a seventh round, draft grade, and uh, learn his first year, and he took off like wildfire last year. We're looking for a bigger year from him this year. And so we don't shy away from our failures, because we
Right.
from our lessons, but
Hmm.
we just want to make sure, because they see them. So
Yeah.
when you got an NFL guy telling you like, hey, this is what I did,
Yeah.
it would behoove you to listen,
Right.
because nothing is new under the sun.
Yeah. I think actually this year it's projected that Caleb Williams, and then there's a tackle at Penn State that's slipping my mind, but they were at Gonzaga, and they might
Okay.
be the first two off the board from the same high school. All right, I'm trying to give you guys some perspective. This is supposed to be a basketball state. We were supposed to be only a basketball state. We're talking about the same high school, and they didn't even win the CAC championship. That's how crazy that, how steep the competition is at the WCAC level. I mean, that was unheard of. I think ESPN actually did an article on that with the tackle that came from Gonzaga, and Caleb Williams, who came from Gonzaga as well. So I want to be very kind of respectful to your time. I definitely appreciate you coming on. What do you see next for BCA? Where do you see the company in the next couple of years, and how do you plan on growing? Just for our listeners out there.
Growth. The last 2 years I was coaching college football. Now I know what my purpose is, and Big Skill Academy is it. So we'll have online development for players outside the country and outside the states, and then they'll have opportunity to come and train and develop with us. But I'm tapping into the youth, middle school and high school young men. and giving them that voice and the encouragement and the mentorship to help guide them through this process. And then we're just back to the DC days. Get them as babies, educate them, develop them, and then watch them go for success.
And how can people get in touch with you? What's the best way of reaching out if they're interested in moving forward?
Instagram, Facebook, I'm Big Skills Academy. My website is bigskillsacademy.net. I'm around.
Get at him, BSA, man. You're not going to find another one. All right. Well, here's how I close out all the shows. I want you to use your imagination, Coach, to a little bit. You're, again, young guy out of Alabama. You have this dream of playing big-time ball. I believe you said 13 siblings. Is that what it was? 13 siblings? All right, and I'm not sure. I had one sister, and I felt like that's a lot, but I'm not sure exactly how you were able to function with 13 siblings. But you're him. Pretend he just clicked into the room, and he's here to talk to. Just give him some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close with that.
Learn to say no.
Wow.
Learn to say no, and make sure you have a good circle.
Wow. That's powerful. That's powerful. Learn to say no and make sure you have a good circle. And that's some advice that can extend beyond a lot of people. And I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people as they're listening and as they're figuring out this world of college athletics and just trying to get to the league, because that dream is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And it takes mentors like you, it takes mentors like myself to make sure everyone's on the right track. So everyone out there, appreciate you tuning in. If you were tuning in during the live stream, thank you for coming on. I know this was fairly short notice. If you're catching the replay or you're listening to this on the Move Swiftly podcast, appreciate you listening. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and all that. We come out every single day. We put it out there every single day. There's no shortage of material when you're over here in the Move Swiftly sports marketing world. Fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.